all, I would argue that all great books, but certainly all great books by Southerners have to have Jesus in them. That's a basic rule. And you have a remarkable, it's sold well, Jesus' book. He has a booth over here. You talk about something that's almost entirely lost in modern 21st century culture, which is the centrality of the idea of blood sacrifice and the tactile nature of that. Would you talk about that and how it informed the novel?
That line of the book, the blood sacrifice, I was sitting by myself eating lunch at a restaurant in South Florida, listening in on conversations around me. And these two women were talking about going to church. And one of them said, "Oh, I haven't seen you in church in a while." And she said, "Well, I'm going to a different church now." And she said, "You know, all the preacher wanted to talk about was Jesus' love. And I wanted him to talk about the blood." And, you know, I grew up in a Southern Methodist church, and that was not anywhere within the realm of, you know, the conversation, that blood sacrifice. So I got fascinated at the idea that somebody felt like that was such a central part of the church experience. So I read about it. I learned more about it from different church traditions, and then have this character who's the murderer of the main character's sister, who was taken to a church like that as a child and had a real misunderstanding of what that all means. You know, the Glidden or whatever it is, paint advertisement with this red paint dripping over the globe and running off the equators. That's his vision of it. Is just this thing that he sees the blood of Christ and sharks in, you know, primeval waters tearing other fish apart as the same thing. And he has a fossilized shark's tooth necklace that he cuts himself on when he gets anxious. So he's totally confused about the blood of Christ and how that relates to Christ's love. And it drives him, part of what drives him through the book, but in a very confused way.
Talk about the title, if you would.
Oh, I had so many titles, I always do. Sometimes the start of the file will have 10 possible titles, and I cut them out over time. But there's a lot of darkness in the book, and a lot of things happen in the woods. I mean, that's write about what you know. I'm in the woods 150 days a year at least, so there's a lot of outdoor stuff in the book, and a lot of it's dark, a lot of it's night, a lot of it's out there in a remote area.
I'm going to do something slightly unfair, but that's the only stuff that's fun, so there we are. Going to read a line or two from the first chapter to Night Woods and just get you to react, if you would. You write, "The place spoke of time, how you're here and then you're gone, and all you leave for a little while afterward are a few artifacts that outlive you." A cheerful thought.
Yeah, that's the main character, Luce, is wandering around this big old lodge and is up in the guest room part of it, just going around looking at the leftover stuff, old crank record players and costume party clothes from parties 75 or 100 years ago, and just thinking about time and trying not to be haunted by that, because she's in this place by herself before the kids come, and just thinking about the purpose of life is an awfully pretentious phrase to me, but just that feeling that you just got this little thin moment, and that even this worthless junk is going to outlive you. She's partly just trying to convince herself not to be scared at night in that place by herself.